In this second video on modulation in Reverberate 3, we're going to go straight to what I think of as the party piece of modulation in Reverberate 3, and that's FusionIR. In the last video, I explained how FusionIR is the way that Liquid Sonics captures the time-varying nature of certain hardware reverbs at the impulse response stage. It sounds great, and it sounds like the thing that you're trying to sound like. If we come over here, what I've got here is I've got a large R Hall from the FS48 bank. That's a Lexicon Random Hall, which is a very well-known random modulated reverb. And if we go over into the FusionIR tab, we'll see that we've got a mod rate to play with. We'll stick with this piano example because it does make these modulation artifacts quite apparent. And there's a little bit of kind of drift in there. If I up the mod rate, you'll hear things get a bit nervier. There's a little kind of quiver on that sound, and correspondingly you can slow things down. Something worth mentioning while I'm in here is these two settings here, early modulation enabled and early modulation disabled. Now, if modulation's happening in the FusionIR part of the reverb, then it does have an effect on what happens in the split mod tab, which is still available. If early modulation is disabled, then over here, early modulation is still available in split mod, but if we enable early modulation in FusionIR, it's not available over here. So if you're finding that, that's why. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch off disable Reverb Engine 1, pop over into Reverb Engine 2, and what we've got here is a parallel stereo, a two-channel impulse response. Now, if we've got that, in the last video we talked about true stereo, and how that involves crossfeed between the left and the right channels at the capture stage and a four-channel impulse response. Sounds complicated. It just makes it sound a little bit more enveloping and kind of nicer. You don't have that because you don't have the four channels to play with in a two-channel impulse response, which a lot of impulse responses are. However, you can fake it in SIMTS. What that stands for, a little cryptic, it's simulated true stereo. So if you switch on the mode here, to one of those two options, then you've got some modulation in here as well. This does the crossfeed delay filtering that's very often involved in these true stereo captures and can fake it to a large degree. And we've got a modulation control here, which it's not the most dramatic sounding thing, but it is available. And it's another place you can apply some modulation to your reverbs. Back over in Reverb Engine 1, let's have a look at some other places. There's a few places left where you can apply modulation in Reverberate 3. And those are over in the Mix tab. Now in here, what we've got is we've got a modulation tab. We've been here before where you can set levels and pans and blend between the two engines. But over here in this modulation tab, you can modulate the blend between the two reverb engines. So let's switch that one on. And if I'll put this all the way up, and we'll see what happens is it's crossfading between the two. So we get alternately that Hall reverb in Reverb Engine 2 and that Lexicon Hall reverb in Reverb Engine 1. The last place I can think of where you can apply modulation in Reverberate 3 is pan modulation. You can also modulate the panning between the two engines. So if I'll crank these up, there's no reason to be shy. And what we've got is and you can vary the phase offset between these two. You're modulating the stereo position of these two, so you can have them panning across the stereo field. So that's 8 places where you can apply modulation to your reverbs in Reverberate 3. So to challenge the idea that convolution reverbs are lifeless because you can't apply modulation to them, well, there are 8 places in Reverberate 3 where you can apply modulation to a convolution reverb.